All right, everybody, welcome to the video. And today I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why I spent more than $500,000 in the last 5 years investing in myself, in coaches, masterminds, courses, from Singapore all the way until Vegas and even LA and like Malaysia, right? Like I basically spent more than like invested more than $500,000 and still counting, and I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why. And again, if you're someone perhaps just like myself, maybe you feel like, you are not at where you want to be yet. And you're thinking to yourself like, hey, why am I struggling? Why am I not there yet? Why are other people faster than me? Then perhaps investing in yourself could be one of the best decisions that you could do for yourself. I mean, it is the best decision for me. And I'm going to run through with you the 3 reasons, or at least the top processes behind why I invest in myself and still continuously do so as well. Okay, so number 1 is sky over ground, right? This is called the sky over ground. This is the first reason, right? And let me explain what I mean. So a lot of times, and I'm guessing like if you're watching this video, you should be a financial advisor or maybe a self-employed, right? But if you think about it, is that, majority of people, before they become self-employed, before you become a self-employed, become a financial advisor, what happens here is that you're either starting or you were working in corporate, right? Or at least your path is, on the corporate path. And so what tends to happen here is that if you think about like so think about it, the way I look at it is very simple. Like, let's assume that the objective that, in this analogy is that, everybody is trying to earn more money, right? Everybody is trying to like be financially free, gain wealth, yada, yada. Okay. Now, so there's the first group of people, which is most of us, before we even join the self-employed industry or being an advisor, is that we are either a student or corporate. And if you think about corporate structure, is that what happens is that your upside is usually capped, right? There's still upside, but it's either capped by, the boss above you or based on opportunities and so forth, right? So there's a limited amount of income that you can earn. It's not as if like this month you earn 5K and then next month you can decide you earn $15,000, right? So it's usually capped. And so what happens here is that when you're in the corporate world, what tends to happen here is that the only way or 2 ways, right, that you will think of like becoming like richer or like, become wealthier is either number 1, you invest your money, save money, and then you invest it somewhere else, right? That's the first one. Then number 2, of course, you got to like save the money. And so what tends to happen here is that people try to reduce their expenses, right? They maybe earn $5,000, they try to like cut every single dollar or cut every expense off and try to save as much and then invest as much as possible, right? So that's, if you are corporate, then that's usually the most sound path or the most sound strategy to take, right? And it makes sense because you can't increase your income as much, and then therefore you got to either save, reduce expenses, and then invest. That's basically that, right? Now, but here's the thing: when you switch from, a corporate kind of like structure with a fixed pay into basically a self-employed, the rules of the game actually change, right? Like, you need to understand, like, the vehicles, basically it's a corporate vehicle, and then versus a self-employed vehicle, like the rules and the way to play the game changes. So what I mean by that is that, when I became a financial advisor, and even like running a 7-figure sales training platform, is that I realized that I can earn a lot more money, right? I can make 20 grand next month. I can decide that if I invest in the skills that I lack, I can basically earn a lot more money because why? And perhaps maybe your manager, your director has told you this, which is, there's upside, the sky is the limit income, yada, yada. And here's the thing, it is true. Like, the sky is the limit, And so the thing here is that like so what we want to do, or at least what I think of it, is that if I'm in the self-employed industry, I'm running a business, my income or earning potential is so high and there's so much upside. What I want to do is that I want to basically grasp like the opportunity. I want to know like how far can I go. Okay, but what tends to happen is that when I first started, I was thinking about how to save money, right? Because like in the vehicle, it's like all about saving money. But when I go into this vehicle, I still think the same way as though I was in corporate or, or why to think like a student, right? Which is save as much money as possible. Now, of course, I'm not asking you to just spend all the money that you have in a bank account and don't save. No, I think it's still important to be frugal and to save. However, the mindset or the psyche got to change when you have a different vehicle. Okay, and so now it's like you're in the self-employed industry, you're a financial advisor, and your income is upside. What you want to do is that instead of just thinking about how much money you can save, you want to start thinking more towards of how much money that you can earn, right? And that's basically, what I think of, when I think investing, because if you think about it, there's only so much you can save. Okay. And say you're earning $5,000, like how much can you truly save? You still gotta eat, you still gotta pay the utilities, you gotta do a ton of things. Like there's only so much you can save. Right? But right now, can I decide that, okay, in the next 3 to 5, 6, 7, 8 months or a year, can I decide to earn 10 grand? I can. And guess what? If let's say, I'm spending 3K right now, right? I can only save 2K if I care about saving. But then if I allocate the time and energy and invest in myself to earn 10K, now I can save 5K. And the thing here is that this number keeps going up and up and up. And more importantly, this number, right? Because the thing is that once you earn this amount of income, it also means that you have somewhat the skill set to earn that same amount of money or even more in the future, right? So it's actually an asset, right? To really invest in yourself, right? And so I think the other way I look at it or say is that, you want to basically invest in skills, because it's the skills that gives you the income, right? It's the skills that gives you the income. And so again, I'm not saying don't save. I'm saying that, like, at least for me, when I make the switch, I realize that, like, saving isn't going to get me to where I want to go. Saving isn't helping me to learn the skill sets that I need to learn so that I can acquire more income, right? And that's why I continuously do invest. And here's the thing. I think there was a mentor that shared this quote with me, and basically said that, I think it's loosely paraphrasing, right? I can't remember what it is, but it's basically along the lines of, like, the ability to earn $500,000 a year could be bought just by paying $50,000. Right? The ability to earn $500,000 a year could be bought by just paying $50,000 a year, right? Or $50,000, right? Because what I'm trying to say is that if you spend $50,000, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying that if you invest $50,000, you acquire the skill sets, you can earn $500,000. Then there's a trade that I'm willing to make all the time, right? If I can invest 200,000 and I can get back like 2 million, like for sure I'll make that trade, right? And so that's the first reason why, I invested in myself, and I continue to do that as well, because I believe that, like, we want to maximize the potential of the vehicle that we are in. When I say vehicle, it could be business, self-employed, real estate, financial advisory, whatever, right? The vehicle we are in, as opposed to thinking about, I just need to only save money, right? Of course, if you can minimize the ground, like you can minimize spend expenses, you can save as much as possible, and you still invest in yourself and earn a lot, then of course, the discrepancy and the margins will be a lot higher, right? So at the end of the day, gets you nearer to the objective that I assume that we're on the same page on, which is we want to have more money, have a better life, and have more wealth, right? And so that's the first one. Now, the second reason on why I invest in myself and still do so is because it's actually cheaper to invest in courses, coachings, and masterminds, because you're learning from people who have done that before, right? And so, like, for example, if let's say I want to learn the skill set of learning how to sell better, let's say I want to sell better. Now, there are two options that I can take. The first option is that I try to meet as many people as possible, try to say certain things, yada yada, right? And keep failing, until I one day hopefully figure it out, right? And I can DIY, I can go on YouTube and start watching some videos and apply some things and make some progress, right? But would it be faster to learn from someone who, for example, could have done, like, was in your shoes before and maybe done 7-8 figures in sales before, and help other people done that? And, wouldn't it be faster to learn from them? Because these people have been through the lessons as well as the mistakes, And I think there are two ways that I look at it, right? When you invest in yourself and the skill set and learning from someone, there are two advantages there, or the way I look at it is that number one is that you are able to get there a lot faster because the person has somewhat know the proven path to get there, right? It might not be 100% like the one that you always follow exactly all the way, but it's probably kind of get an idea, right? It's kind of like, there's a reason why when people want to climb Mount Everest, there's like Sherpas, right? People who have climbed Mount Everest before and they are the one leading. You still got to do the climb yourself, but it's just a lot faster because now they are able to know where to go and which route is the fastest route to get there, right? So that's the first advantage I see. Now, the second advantage that is probably unspoken or something that I think a lot about, it's you actually get to learn how to avoid the mistakes and the pitfalls that are ahead of us. So, and I mean, in my short 30 going 31 years of my short little life here, I've realized that, life is not a straight line. And so, it's not always about like, if I complete step A, step B, step C, I will get to, to heaven, right? Or like get to this dream of like, being financially free and everything else, right? Like it doesn't work that way all the time, because sometimes you can follow the steps and then all it takes is for you to fall down, get off track, fall off the cliff just by one mistake, and it will reset you and set you back months, weeks, or even years later, right? And so one of the things I really care a lot about nowadays is like, okay, what are the mistakes that I do want to avoid, right? There's the what lessons I want to learn, I can learn to get me there faster. And then then the second one is what are the different like mistakes or pitfalls I can avoid so that I can also eventually get there faster. Without trying to get down into the shit show or the shithole and then like try to bring myself back up again, right? And so that's why I feel like it's a lot cheaper, to pay this money, to other people and everything else, because you can benefit from that. And here's the thing. A lot of times I hear a lot of people saying that like, hey, man, I get an investment part, but like it is very expensive. But is it really that expensive? Right? Because if you're going to take maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 hours to learn a skill set that you might not have tried and proven that much because of the constraint of time, but then you can learn the same skill set from someone who have done it like 3,000 times before. Like, this is fast. This actually gets it faster, right? And I think the thing that most people don't think about a lot is that people think that if they don't invest the money, there's no cost to them. But it's not true, because the cost is always about, in my opinion, right, you always incur a guaranteed cost of not doing anything. You always incur a guaranteed cost of not doing anything, right? Doing nothing is probably one of the most expensive things or costs that you can incur, right? And so if you don't think about it, and there's this good analogy here, right, which is like, let's say you're earning, let's say you're earning $5,000 a month right now, and your goal is to earn $10,000 a month, right? And if you think about that, basically you want to earn 10, you're only having 5 right now, the discrepancy is 5K. And what essentially this means, right, is this. For every month that you do not know or learn the skill sets to earn 10K a month, you're essentially losing 5 grand every single month. So in a year, the guaranteed cost to you for doing nothing is 60K. You're supposed to earn 120, but because you didn't do anything, you're incurring a 60K loss, right? And so taking that 60K loss to investing 10K in yourself, like, would that really be considered really expensive, right? And so this like another frame that hopefully this will help you. And I'm sharing this because although I'm pretty big on investing myself, but there are times where there are certain investments in certain programs were, let's just say, pretty expensive, right? In the sense that in terms of quantum, and so the quantum is larger. It's like there was one in the US, it was like 56,000. Right? And it's all like online, and you got to fly there for certain events. So it's 56K one shot. They don't even take payment plans. It's like, like it still stinks, right? Like I have the money, but it still stings. Like it still hurts a little bit, right? You start thinking, is it worthy, yada. And I remind myself that, hey, if I don't do it, I can keep my money, but I will also equally keep my problems, right? And I'm not going to get there, And so this is hopefully one of the things that a lot of people don't think about, and that's why they get stuck there, right? And so that's the second reason, right? Because it's a lot cheaper. Now the third reason is SME over S&P 500, right? And so if you think back again to the corporate structure that I spoke about, everybody is always about like, and even some, you could be self-employed, or even for me, when I first started as a self-employed, as an advisor and running a business now, is that, always think about like S&P 500, you invest in REITs, crypto, so on and so forth. And what we essentially doing or implying is that when we invest our money and allocate the resources to certain different platforms, what we're really saying is that we're taking a bet on these people, right? We are taking a bet. Let's say you invest in a fund house, let's say BlackRock, for example, you're basically betting that the fund managers and the fund managers are also betting that the things that they're betting on or investing on could have a potential upside, right? And so you're still kind of like, there's still that risk, there's still that uncertainty because it's humans, right? It involves humans and, humans carry this risk inherently. And so the thing is, if I want to take a bet, right? If I'm going to bet like $1,000, like 10,000 or 100 grand on someone or something, wouldn't it make sense that I would bet on myself? Wouldn't it make sense that I bet this 100 grand on myself? Why? Because number one, no one knows me better than myself. I have full control and ownership of every single day, every single minute, every single thought that I can think, right? And this puts me in the place where I'm so much more powerful to move the things forward, right? And makes better decisions. But if you invest in other people, you definitely lose that sense of control because there are certain things that you can't do. You can only put your money there and they can do whatever it is and you can only sit back and watch, right? And so that's the first thing, right? Like my point is like, if you want to take a bet on something or someone else, why don't you take a bet on it? Right? That's the whole point of like the SME, over the S&P 500. Okay? But there's another thing to it I want to talk about, right? I want to talk about like percentage in terms of like returns, and I'll talk about time horizon. So, everybody is, the usual woo-woo thing about like investing S&P 500 will be like, every year the stock market gets 8%, 10% typically, and then and there's a rule of 72, right? Which is like if you invest at a return of 6%, you double your money every 12 years, something, right? And so the thing here is this, right? Is that S&P gives you like, let's say 60, 10%, whatever. And then you double your money every 12 years, right? So it's still a great thing. It's still a vehicle. It's still a platform they want to invest in and diversify depending on the objective. However, if you think about investing in yourself, there are two things here, right? The returns will be a lot higher. So let's say, for example, you back to the example of like, okay, you're earning 5 grand a month now, and then you invest 10K to learn the skill set of learning how to prospect and sell better, for example. And then within 3 months, you make back 50,000, right? So you invest 10K now because you learn the skill set. Next month, you know you can close one more case, you can like open one more bigger case, you can get more referral, and then it ended up with 50 grand. So if you think about it, you invest 10 grand, right? 10K here, this is what you invest. And then because of the investment, you learn the skill set, you earn 50,000. So if you think about it, that's basically a 5x, number one, a 5x return, right? So you obviously get like 500%. So you get way higher returns than putting S&P. Number two is that in terms of the time horizon, S&P could take like 12 years, but you only took, let's say, 3 months. And so by this means of measuring it, like you obviously get way more returns if you bet on yourself, right? Because, and the thing here is that we haven't even talked about the very fact that, people always say that, you're going to invest here because like assets will compound and everything else. But the thing is like, so will you. You would also compound. Your skill sets will compound and the experiences will compound as well. Hopefully you get wiser, you learn from the mistakes and you make better decisions over time, right? And so there we go, right? That's why I invest in myself. And, again, it's just my thought process. I'm not saying you definitely have to invest in yourself, whatever. I mean, it's your choice. But to me, it's like, if I'm willing to take a bet on myself, I will invest in myself because it's cheaper and I want to avoid all the mistakes. And more importantly, I want to, really squeeze the upside that this particular vehicle opportunity or this job or career profession is providing me, right? And so this is kind of like the way to think about it, at least for me. And I mean, if you're wanting to be faster and everything else. And the thing is like, when I look at my mentors, coaches, and people around me who are like way more successful than me, they care a lot about these things, right? They care about hiring the right people. They care about like investing and putting yourself in the room of the right people, and paying for skill sets, paying for people to tell them like, okay, what are the mistakes that could happen so that they can avoid it, right? Because, it's expensive, like I mentioned, to incur the cost. So that's it. I hope this video has been helpful for you in terms of like looking how you can move yourself faster towards the goals that you have for yourself, when it comes to money, when it comes to having a better life as well, right? And I think to wrap up this entire video, there was a long time ago, someone told me this, right? When I was young, I was probably 25, and then this dude was like, I was sharing with this person, and I was saying that, hey, you know what? Like, why did basically that I have this friend who's like 15 years older than me, right? And he's a business owner and everything else. And I was like, oh no. I started to realize that he wasn't doing very well. And I was thinking like, shit, like, how come I was asking my friend, I said, how come like someone who's a lot older, can still make these kind of mistakes, or rather they're still not at where they want to be yet. Right. And this friend come and reply and tell me this, and he said that, well, Ben, as a person could live 10 years of compounded experiences in their lives. Another person could live 10 years of that same 1 year experience. And so what it's essentially trying to say is that someone could squeeze a lot of the life experiences lessons into 1 year and learn more and compounds over again over the next decade, while another individual could go through the same life on the first year, and the second year repeat exactly the same again, and the third year repeat exactly the same again. And even though this person could be 10 years older, but in terms of experience, it's still probably 1 year's worth, right? And so I guess like, you perhaps this could be helpful in terms of like looking at like, how sometimes age is not the only thing that matters, or rather it's not the thing that always matters. You can really accelerate your results and experience way faster than people who might be older than you as well. All right, so again, hopefully this video helps, and I'll see you in the next one.